you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. He then said to the paralytic, Rise, take up your bed and go home. And he rose and went home. When the crowd saw it, they marveled. And they glorified God, who had given such authority to man.
Speak to thee as proclaim the glad tidings.
Glory to thee, O Lord, glory to thee.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Christ is in our midst.
He is and ever shall be.
Whenever I hear a list like this, you know which list I'm talking about? The list in the epistle today? I often think of how I'm not doing so well. Listen to this list. Prophecy. Let him prophesy according to the proportion of the faith. Ministry. Give yourself to the ministry. Teacher to the teacher. Exhorting to the exhorter. He who gives, let him do it with simplicity. He who presides, diligence. He who shows mercy, with cheerfulness. Let love be without hypocrisy. Love one another with brotherly affection. And honor, preferring one another. Okay, so with all of these ministries, with all of the graces, if you will, like the energies of God, which they all are, you know, you can't do any of that without the grace of God. What they all are for is none other than healing. Healing. Christ is about healing our broken condition. Christ is about, first and foremost, healing us from the fall, from that disaster that we chose, and sometimes continue to choose, many times. He's about overcoming all of those gaps, you know, all of that chasm in there. It's all about healing. The Christian life, the Christian faith, the Holy Mysteries. If you're going to receive the Holy Mysteries today, let it be for your healing. Your healing of your own heart, your relationship with Christ, your relationship with everybody, with each other. Simple, huh? And yet, here's the other side of it. Why does St. Paul even have to say that? That's the point. Because of the kind of thing that happens in the gospel. You hear what happened in that gospel teaching? Christ did exactly heal. He healed a paralytic. And what's the first reaction to healing from the world? From the others, let's say. The demons, for sure. They don't like it. They don't like healing. They like chaos. They like brokenness. They like separation. They like arguing. So they begin to attack him. And they don't even say anything. This goes to show how deep, how deeply wounded we are. Because the Pharisees didn't say a word. They just thought it in their hearts. This man is committing blasphemy. This man is sinning, right? And Jesus goes into their heart and says, why do you say that? Why do you think that? You know? But we, who know better, we actually do this. A lot of this. Talking and talking and talking. And questioning. And sometimes questioning healing itself. How can that be? You know, or we don't want to be healed. We want something else. We want our pain. We want to continue to participate in pain, in suffering, with no meaning, with no healing, therapeutic resolution to it. We like sometimes to enjoy our own egotistical struggle. There it is. Now, there are many sort of tools, manners of healing. And one of them is, so today we're going to have a wedding here today, small wedding. Our deacon and diaconisa are going to finally have the blessing of their marriage in the church. Many of us come into the church, and it's sometimes not even thought of to bless the marriage. So, like it happened with us, and we had to have ours blessed later. Same thing with them. Today we're going to do that blessing. And so I asked about this little gospel and this teaching today. I said, Deacon, what should we talk about? Here's the gospel. Boom, boom, boom. And you know what he said? In tears. He was like in tears. He said, I want to talk about healing. Specifically, the healing that comes from marriage. And you can fill in the blank with any relationship. But I want to focus on what he said. He said, how Christ has continued to heal me with no words and no talking, not necessarily, and all of that, through my wife. Christ has healed me precisely through my wife. Beautiful. Beautiful. And vice versa, I'm sure. I didn't get a chance to ask you that question. But I'm sure vice versa, If we don't have this, you know what you have then? You have men with many women, women with many men, thinking that that's somehow the solution to everything. And there's no healing there. Because they're trying something just based on what the earth can offer, what this life can offer, this world. So they try things. It's almost like you have to feel sorry. Because maybe they don't know. They haven't heard about Christ. They haven't heard about the incredible amount of restoration that he and the church can offer, right? So take marriage, for instance. If you're just getting married, let's say for some other reason, like what reason most of the kids give me when I ask them? They say, because we love each other. I say, oh no, not that again. Because it doesn't mean anything. That thing that, most of the time it doesn't. Because we love each other. And then, I'm almost tempted anymore, I've been at this for a while, to just say, okay, then let's wait 2 years. And we'll see if what you're talking about, still is there. That particular kind of thing you're talking about. That kind of love, which does not heal. That kind of love, self-seeking. That kind of love is only to heal my own, not only to please my own self, something like this. So look what happens in the mystery of matrimony, the mystery of the wedding. What happens is one person dies to that kind of love, the other person dies to that kind of love, which is self-love, ultimately. And then out of that death comes the resurrection of a new kind of love. The kind of love that we're talking about here, the service. If you're going to teach. If you're going to prophesy. In a wedding, in a marriage, you have to do all of that. You have to teach each other. You have to show each other everything. You have to sacrifice 1,000,000 times for each other. By the way, it's the same in the church. Just baptism is the same in that sense as marriage. Marriage is intense because it's with one person. Baptism brings us into contact with everybody to some degree to do that work. So if this man is given to me in the church, it's to heal something in me. If this one is given to me also, it's to heal something else in me. So we're given to one another precisely for that kind of healing, okay? Now, just like in marriage, like there's an elder, Serafim, in Serbia who says, when you put two people together in a marriage, you know what it's like? A rock grinder. I think I told you this before. You put like those sharp diamond, like diamond in the rough kind of stones, and you start going roo, roo, and the sparks fly. And the edges, the sharp edges bite, but they come off. If you keep doing it, this is the work, right? And you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and then you have the smooth stones at the end. Now just multiply that, which is very intense, and you're given the grace in that mystery. So maybe your marriage will be like amazing after this because you'll be given a new grace to it. But you're given the grace in that mystery for that exact purpose. You're given the grace in baptism for everything. For literally every other, every possible thing. Baptism covers everything, including how now I'm going to relate to other people. when you're given the opportunity for healing, like this paralytic in the gospel, right? You know the kind of healing that Christ offers? He says, the first thing, he meets somebody and he says, your sins are forgiven. That's a beautiful thing to hear from Christ, right? Wouldn't it be nice, like, we who are not the master of the universe, the God of, all creation, to say to each other, even before you ever would offend me, or say something, or look at me, or I imagine that you're thinking something, that I would always say in my heart, your sins are forgiven. Your sins are forgiven from me. I mean, not in general, only Christ can do that. But I forgive you from the beginning, even before anything ever happens. This is the teaching of today's gospel. The first thing that Christ wants is the restorative healing of your sins are forgiven. So now we can talk. Because if my sins, if I'm not going to come towards you with that basic reality of I'm not looking at your faults, I'm not looking at your sins, I'm not looking at anything except what Christ sees, which is a person who's pure and holy the way he created them, your relationships will change. The first thing you won't do is something self-seeking. What can I get out of this person? Think about it. Come on, let's be honest with each other. In the world, men and women, they meet, and they're thinking already, what can I get out of this person? So sad. So sad to be using each other like that. Or, how can I protect myself from that person? You see, Christ never approaches anybody that way. He lets them make all the moves, and then he responds to the attitude or to the behavior or to something problematic. But he never condemns the person. It's not the second coming yet. He always gives them the opportunity for what? The thesis of this whole discussion. Healing. To finally find their salvation, the healing of Christ, of the kingdom of heaven. Let's do that at least first. And to say, your sins are forgiven. And then, let's say somebody says that to us. Let's say somebody approaches us that way. In the church. Here it's a good place to explore these things. We who are so careful with each other. And oh boy, gotta watch out for this one. Gotta watch out for that one. I can't go near this person. Oh my gosh, it'll make your head stand, your hair stand up. Everybody's like this all the time. So if somebody approaches you with that, in their heart saying, your sins are forgiven. Christ has forgiven you. Who am I to hold anything against you? And to approach the relationship that way, right? If somebody does that with you, are you going to start talking to yourself? Are you going to start having these Pharisaic, well, what does this person want? How can he be so joyful? The world is miserable. My life is terrible. I feel sick. How can they, do we have that conversation? And by the way, it's gotten so bad that we actually articulate that stuff. We actually say it. The Pharisees, they didn't even say it. They were just thinking, this man's blaspheming. They were dismissing him right away. We sometimes even dismiss with our words. We say too many things. Too many things coming not from that healing place of your sins are forgiven. It's good enough for your Lord. No servant is greater than his master. You can say that in your heart. Have that begin. I have to let go of all of these preconceived notions, all of these harsh places that I've been, and just try to see. You ever hear the word? We use 3 words in terms of this process of healing in the church. The Noetic Fathers really use them a lot. Purification, illumination, deification. We're not even going to talk about deification. We have to talk, first of all, about purifying our hearts, but then, if we even catch glimpses of the second, you know what the second illumination is? It's to see with the eyes of God. It's to see with Christ's own eyes. When we look at each other, we see the way Christ sees. He sees past all the veils, all the surfacey levels, pulls them all apart, and just sees where the real person is, because that's the person he's after. That's the person he would like, by the end of this life, to be restored and come out and shine. That's us. That's the real us. The beautiful thing about the wedding service, and like when you have children, right, is hopefully you keep stripping that away over and over and over again, and you're able to talk and say, that's not the real you. There's the real you. I know the real you. I see you with the eyes of Christ. That's Christian marriage, and there's a huge difference between that and what normally passes for marriage out there. A lot of stuff is below like layers and mountains of crust. But ours is not to do that. Ours is not to do that. So that's when a husband can say to his wife, she's healed me. You know, she's been the instrument of illumination. She has seen me the way Christ sees me. And it makes us better people. It makes us know ourselves as not the product of all my sins. We have that. Believe me, if we start focusing on our sins, there's enough sin in this church right now, even as we're entering the Holy Mysteries, right? Just trying to release it before you take the Holy Mysteries. There's enough to go around. Always. There's always this playing tricks on us, the mind, right? And God forbid, there's always what we've done, even this day or this week. There's a lot there. But that is not us. Notice, Christ runs into a paralyzed person. Most people in the earth would look at the paralyzed person and guess what they would see? A paralyzed person. Somebody who can't walk. And they don't think any deeper about who that person really is. But Christ, the minute he sees him, looks right past all of them and says, your sins are forgiven. He doesn't even pay much attention to the physical condition. Your sins are forgiven. I know you. I know you. You want to be like that? In this church, that's what the invitation is. In the Orthodox Church, we don't have to. And the reason it's hard, you know what? People say, well, how come we don't have 1 million converts all the time coming to the Orthodox Church? Because it's hard. It's hard to say, I want people to know me. I want you to know me. I want to know you. People are like saying, well, you know, that requires honesty. That requires truthfulness. That requires confession. Sometimes like, oh, you don't really want to know me. Or maybe I don't really want to know you. That requires getting past all of that. You know, when I first came into this archdiocese, it was very scary. Because I was in another diocese, the OCA. And when I came into this diocese, I didn't know anybody. And we went to one of these conferences. You know, these conferences that we're paying for every year, you know. Sometimes some meat comes out of it. Like this one time, there was an old Arabic priest, white hair. He's not even active anymore. He's retired. So he saw me. He must have seen me like sort of stumbling around in the hotel. And he came up to me. And he sort of just came in my face. And he said in big Arabic accent, I want to know you. Just like that. I want to know you. I was like shocked. I said, do you want to know me? So we sat down and we got to know each other. And so then after that, it was always a joke. He says, Idaho potatoes. He's from California. So, but, do you hear that initial movement? We don't do that. We're hiding a lot of things. If we really, those who come to this church, more specifically, those who go to these holy mysteries, right? What does it mean to be in communion? In communion with Christ, and by virtue of that, with each other. That means we are called on the heart level to know each other. Right? You who are in communion with the church, and who can, like, especially today, receive the Holy Mysteries today, you're in communion with Christ on the deepest level, and on communion with each other. And everybody who's receiving around the world today. Deeply in communion. More so than with your own biological families out there somewhere who are not Orthodox. That's communion. We believe that. No, we know that. We know that for sure. And that's the kind of communion that Christ Christ says to the paralyzed man, he says, your sins are forgiven. If we operate from that principle, you'll never offend anybody, and no one will ever offend you again. Because we're not dealing with issues, we're not dealing with egos or opinions. We're dealing with this how would you even say, pre-offensive love and forgiveness of Christ. And there's nothing like it. So, beloved Christians, do a pastor's heart good and, forgive each other and forgive everybody all the time their sins. Because they're always going to be there. There's always going to be sins till the day we die. Hopefully we make them smaller and smaller and less and purge them completely before the end. But we need to anticipate that sometimes people are going to let us down. So even before that happens, I don't open my mouth about it at all. I just say in my heart, forgive me, and your sins are forgiven. And to operate like that. The way you talk to everybody, the way you relate to others after that will be different, let's say, than you've been doing before. Defenses have to be let down, you see? Like, all the preconceived notions, even the history, has to be like nonsense, forgotten. Why? Because this is a new day, and this is a new person. And Christ comes to them again today, especially if they're standing, daring to open their mouth and receive the body and blood of Christ. It's a simple message, but it's a very kind of deep and striking, cuts right to the heart, doesn't it? How have I interfered with the forgiveness of Christ and the love of Christ and the healing of Christ? Have I been that Pharisee, in the back, or even in my heart? It's bad enough. Because Christ will do. It's just so awesome if he turns to you and says, why do you think evil in your hearts? Can you imagine that face, that beautiful, shining, smiling, glorious, radiant face, saying, why do you think evil in your hearts? I've just forgiven this man his sins. Do you want that face to look at you and ask that question? Or do you want that face to look at you and say, I know you. You're like this one that sins are forgiven. I know you. You are in communion with me, aren't you? This is our faith. This is our teaching. This is your simple way of life. All the other, big lists like St. Paul, right? All of that is ways of doing this thing. So yes, in the process we have to do some teaching. We have to do some exhorting. We have to do some prophesying. Prophesying is what do I do today? What do I do this week, this year, to encourage the will of God in my life, to follow the will of God, etc. All the list. It's about your healing. It's about my healing. Okay? We can help each other. We can do something about this. With the grace of God, and the inspiration of this kind of teaching, no one could ever touch us again and poison our hearts with anything negative. Amen.